Coinbase and Bakkt are behind Paul Tudor Jones' Bitcoin bet. That's according to Danny Nelson, who dug this up deep in the SEC filing book. I don't know how Danny finds these. This goes back to May when this was first announced, landed on CoinDesk. And I guess Danny's just been really looking around, waiting for this to happen, waiting for the SEC to announce that information. So essentially what we have here is another Coinbase swindle where they're able to take advantage of these large institutional players moving into the cryptocurrency landscape. And Paul Tudor Jones, of course, is a huge macro investor and very well-respected figure in the investing landscape. And he kind of was one of the first characters to emerge from that class of institutional investors and dip their toes into Bitcoin in a big way. At the time, it was only one of the hedge funds that he actively manages. And it was, I think, only like Bitcoin Cash futures on the CME exchange was what filings at the time showed. But what Danny found, some more information showing that Tudor Jones's family offering has also some Bitcoin exposure. It's not quite sure how much, and it's not shown what kind of exposure they have to Bitcoin. But it does matter that a huge macro investor like Paul Tudor Jones is shilling Bitcoin to his family. So I want to drop this right over to Naomi because I feel like you've got a hot take on this.
A hot take. Well, I just think it's interesting how all these things start to come out of the woodwork, right? Because not everyone is screaming from the rafters about their Bitcoin investments. Some people are. Sometimes, people are announcing every other day that they bought another $15 million in Bitcoin. And so we tend to think that we're getting a good idea of the new people getting involved, that we kind of understand the scene, the lay of the land, and as big players get involved, we hear about it. It doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like these people are getting involved, they're not announcing it, and we really don't have an idea of how many people are involved. So my question is, how many other people out there are there who are big players in the finance space, big players in industry, who are already involved with crypto and we just haven't even heard of it? Zach, what are your thoughts?
I think we will find them. I think slowly but surely, Danny Nelson and the team here will find them all. We will find all the documents, and they will all be listed for the world to learn about. But yeah, I think going back to Will's intro, to me, I remember Paul Tudor Jones as being, again, one of those first sort of Wall Street figureheads that was like, this Bitcoin thing, you should check it out. And this was back in May of 2020, which feels so long ago now. But I think it's great that we're still getting some fresh details on this, by virtue of the public reporting requirements of these big mega funds that are regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. So the ability to see in detail what these funds are using, how the service provider dynamic works in the industry is really fascinating. Tagomi, of course, was announced that it was bought by Coinbase back in May, around the time that Paul Tudor Jones' announcement first came out. Could be a coincidence in timing, but it could also suggest that he was a client of Tagomi, prior to last May when he first started talking about this thing. So it is interesting to sort of see the TikTok and see the timing of, some of these big figureheads embracing Bitcoin as an asset that is akin to gold as a hedge, as a macro hedge. So again, this is just lays bare sort of the service provider class that has really benefited from this most recent institutional interest in crypto for sure. So we'll find them. We'll see who's next. But the documents are out there. Danny has his secrets. Danny has his ways, and we'll see who's next.
Naomi, I'm curious what you think. Why all the secrecy? You kind of alluded to that when you were talking. Why do you think that these large investors aren't as open?
And that's a good question. The bottom line is someone's investment is their own business. Obviously, when you're a publicly traded company, it becomes everyone's business. So that's why we are getting these leaked documents. But, if you're just someone who's wealthy and you're getting involved with crypto, there's no reason to be shouting about it to people, and people can keep their investments private. But it is interesting that if they think that this is a hedge, or if they think that this is a valuable resource and it is helping people hedge against economic instability, it's interesting that they're not being vocal about that, because this is something that they could use their voice to help others and educate others about, and say, hey, this is something which may help you if there's a big downturn in the economy, or if there's hyperinflation, or if the US dollar goes terrible. So it is interesting to me that they're just kind of playing their cards close to their chest rather than announcing it. But not everyone likes the limelight. Not everyone likes their finances to be public. And so if people are going to go digging, that's very different to announcing it to Wall Street Journal, for example. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think you're getting at it there. It's also about kind of the appetite for the volatility and what that could say to your clients or investors and how on board they may or may not be with that. You know, like some of these like huge firms, that's not the game they've played for years and years and years. You know, they want predictability, they want stability. And so, you know, dabbling in Bitcoin, that's cool and great, but you don't need to go like putting out press releases about it so everybody can be out there covering it. And I think also too, Amy, you spoke about this, you know, they're watching maybe this as a hedge against sort of, you know, future dollar devaluation or inflation and some of these other things. You know, if they start talking about that and talking about that in a loud way, that also starts pushing the economy in different directions and kind of pushing buttons that other people react to. So, you know, in some ways it makes sense to hold on to this while also, you know, as a potential eventuality, then and keeping your cards close to your chest while doing so.